Hello, dear friends. I'm Marina. Please let me know if you can hear me and see me. Okay, this time we are okay. So I made a technical mistake. So, anyway, welcome to our webinar about how to read a birth chart and make predictions with astrology. This is the second episode of those lessons. Welcome to all of you. Last week we had a volunteer and we discussed a very interesting chart. If you would like to see the feedback and what the person said about this reading, you can find the link below the video. So also, if you would like to be a volunteer in a next episode, you're welcome to send your birth details to my email. You can go to my website, marsstars.net. You can find contacts there. At the end of this webinar, I will also write my email. So everyone who wants to be a volunteer is welcome to send their birth details, 2 life areas that would like us to focus on, and also a short description of their life situation. So today we have our next example that we are going to discuss. We are going to focus on the Nato chart analysis and also on prediction. Before that, also, I would like to make an announcement that on the 28th of October, I will make a webinar about Jupiter in Sagittarius. So if you would like to attend the webinar and also get a personal report about Jupiter in Sagittarius, you can find the link for this in the description below. So let's dive into our topic today. Now, first, I will share my screen so that you can see all of the charts that we are going to discuss. Just give me a second. Okay, so hopefully you see my screen now. So this is the natal chart of a woman that we are going to call Marie. It's not her real name, but in order to keep her privacy, we will use this name. So this is a woman, Marie, 33 years old. First, let's see what she says. Let's see her description and basically her questions. So one of her questions, when will I meet long-lasting love? I haven't had a meaningful relationship since 12 years. Though very short, it had a transformative effect upon me and pushed me to work on my personal development, to learn to love myself more, become more discriminating in my choices. Now, after many years, I'm willing to open up again, but I feel very isolated. I interact with few people on a daily basis, and I feel so restricted in my possibilities of meeting potential partners. My biggest desire is to have my own family and children. Are there any chances? So first question is very clear about love life, potential for having a relationship, family, and so on. Second question is, what am I meant to do for a career? I'm currently in the same job since 2011. I work as a communications and administrative assistant in an embassy using foreign languages. It's a stable job, but I crave for a type of work that is more fulfilling emotionally, and that gives me the feeling that I can contribute to society and be of help to other people. I also volunteer a lot. Despite numerous attempts since 2015, I have been unable to make a change in my career. I often feel stuck, drifting without a clear purpose, as the current job provides no growth opportunities. So, these are the main things that we need to know about this woman. We need to focus on her love life and her career. Currently, she's working in an embassy, administrative work with translation. So, of course, we need that information. We need to know what the person wants us to explain and to analyze. Just a quick check if. Okay, so everything is okay with our streaming. So this is the Nato chart. As usual, we are starting with the general analysis of the birth chart. And actually, this will be helpful for you if you want to analyze your natal chart as well, because it shows you the direction that you should take. So what's the approach when you're analyzing a natal chart? Because most of the answers are in the natal chart, not so much in the prediction. So here we can find out what's possible, what's challenging, what's, more, well, comes easy for the person and so on. And after that, of course, I will show you how to make a prediction using different methods for that. So our first step is related with the balance of the astrological elements in the natal chart. We can find them here in this small table. This column shows the fire planets. Here we can see the air, water, and earth planets. So what's interesting about this chart is that we have 3 planets in 2 of the elements and 2 planets in the other 2 elements. So basically this is the most balanced case, because we have 10 planets, we have 4 elements. So we cannot have 2.5 planets in certain sign. That's the closest we can have to, the most harmonious case, basically. Without something which is, really increased, without something which is totally missing. And this is one thing which shows that the soul of this person is probably experienced. Probably this person has already worked on different qualities in previous lives. So he comes with certain potential. Of course, there are other things that we need to analyze. We cannot make the conclusion that the person is extremely talented based on that, only on that. But that's something that we should remember. The elements in this chart are quite balanced. The other thing which is interesting, first we start with the general things. So we don't want to focus, for example, on, let's see, she has Venus squared by Neptune, let's dive in that. No, it's not how you approach the interpretation. First, you start from the general things, from the whole picture, and literally you can look at the chart as a picture, as a drawing, and see how it looks to you. Does it look harmonious? Or maybe, there are things which are more accentuated. So what's the impression that you get only from looking at the chart? It's very important. And generally, what we can say here, it's interesting that most of the planets are in this hemisphere. So this is the self or the personal hemisphere. Very interesting. Basically, this is the hemisphere which is related to ourselves. People who have most of their planets here, they're more focused on themselves. And sometimes, connecting with others, communicating, making compromises can be a challenge. So usually these are people who are relying more on themselves, who are more independent. And sometimes they are, really interested in themselves. So what's happening in their life. We cannot make the conclusion, that the person is selfish. We need to find, other indications. But in some cases, this might be one of the possible indications, because, the person is looking at himself. But as we said, the positive side of this is that those people are more independent usually. Also, it's interesting to define the type of the astrological configuration. So literally it means how the planets are placed within the chart. And in this case, we don't have a clear answer, because this chart is in the middle between 2 options. One of the options is a bow configuration, when all of the planets are placed within half of the zodiac, 180 degrees. The other option is a locomotive. when the planets are placed within 2/3 of the zodiac, or what does it make in degrees? Well, I cannot calculate it right now, but yeah, it should be 260 degrees. Yeah, that's 2/3 of the zodiac. So in our case, it's right in the middle between both of those configurations. So the person can represent part of the qualities of both of those configurations. It's a large topic, so I won't focus too much on that. But what we can guess from this is that the person can act in different ways in different situations. So there is not only one way of, interacting with the world or reacting to different situations. There are, different directions for this person. Also, we need to analyze the first and the last planet of the configuration. In this case, the first planet is Pluto. The first planet shows you how this person starts new things. So how he initiates the new things, what can motivate him. And also, of course, this position increases the strength of this planet. In our case, this planet is clearly Pluto, which is, the planet of transformations, the planet of intense emotions, the planet related to the collective will, and also the planet of critical situations and serious deep transformations. We already said that. So it means that this person can be highly motivated to transform things. It could be, transforming herself, evolving into something greater, or transforming something which has also social importance, because Pluto is in 10th house. But this can make the person very passionate when he tends to, or when he's starting something. And this brings incredible power, Pluto. The last planet of the configuration is also a planet related to our will, but this time we are talking about the personal will, which is represented by Mars. And the last planet of the configuration shows you how this person ends the things that he starts, and what is his what is his goal, actually. So when Mars is your last planet, this person needs to take action. So he needs to do something. Also, his goal can be independence, or, taking risks, or doing something, taking action. So the first and the last planet of this configuration are both planets related to our will. So we can say that probably this woman has a strong will when she knows what she wants exactly, which might be kind of a challenge. We are going to find out why. Okay, so let's see the next thing, and probably one of the most important, maybe even the most important in this chart. Can you guess what it is? So is there something that makes significant impression for you? I would be interested in hearing your opinion. So what's the thing that makes him really significant impression, really specific, rare thing? Can you tell me something? Okay, it would be interesting actually if you also share your opinion about the chart or something else. No, it's not the trines. Something more specific, something rare. Okay, I will give you a hint if you want to. It's something about the sun and the moon. Yeah, all the planets are at one side. Yes, Lauren. Yeah, you're completely right. But we are searching for something else. So actually, I'm not sure, maybe you can't see the chart right now. So let me show you again. I think that when I'm looking at the chat, you are not able to see the chart. So, okay, I won't torture you. It was just, interesting. By the way, if you try to work together with me and to, try to connect with the chart and, to make some interpretation or guesses for yourself, you will really benefit from this. You will really learn how to read a chart. So, of course, it's something optional. Yeah, eclipse. Yes, you're right. See how you were able to find out. Yes, this woman is born on a full moon, but also an eclipse. We have a lunar eclipse, which means full moon, including also the nodes, which are in conjunction with the sun and the moon. The eclipses happen only a couple of times a year. So basically we have, well, usually 2 or 3 of them in a row, twice a year. So it's very rare to find someone who was born on lunar eclipse, solar eclipse. They're both important. Generally, this is kind of a challenge. First of all, very often, not always, but very often, those people have problems in their birth family. Sometimes one of the parents is missing or is constantly traveling or is not there, or something else is happening. Sometimes those people may also have health issues when they're children. So generally this is a specific position. And also the sun and the moon represent the most important planets in our chart. On the other hand, the north and the south node are also the most karmic indications in the chart, also fundamental for the understanding of the task of this person, of his mission. So anyone who was born on an eclipse, solar, lunar eclipse, they're both important. Those people have very specific life mission. They need to do a lot of work, and usually they go through a very serious personal transformation. So what's specific about the full moon? Basically, this is the longest possible distance between the sun and the moon. And pay attention, guys, that in this case, in Marie's case, the opposition is absolutely exact. 15 degrees in Taurus is the sun, 15 degrees in Scorpio is the moon. So this aspect is extremely strong in this chart. This is the leading aspect, the general aspect in this chart. By the way, also when you're interpreting your chart or another chart, it's very important to find out which aspect is the most exact in your chart. It will tell you a lot about, what's the most important topic, or at least it's one of the main indications for, the general topic in your life, or what will be something which is really accentuated in your chart. So in Marie's case, we have a really exact opposition between the sun and the moon. Generally, when we have a full moon, this is the time when we can clearly see the moon, literally, in the skies. When we are about to have the full moon, you know how we can see the whole moon. And as the moon represents emotions, our unconscious mind, our habits, many things about our also security, our safety. This is the time when we can really recognize things in ourselves. So usually people born on a full moon, they have the task, to recognize and to see clearly and understand their subconscious mind, their emotions, and to, learn to balance all of this, to balance the conscious mind and the unconscious mind, because the sun represents the conscious mind, the moon represents the subconscious mind. Having an opposition between two planets requires balancing. So it's very clear, I would say. Also, when we have a lunar eclipse, the moon is not visible. Basically, because of the alignment of the Earth and the sun and the moon, for a certain period, we are incapable of seeing the moon. So in this case, the interpretation is kind of, different. And this person may have, challenges with recognizing or seeing completely his emotional needs. Also, his subconscious mind might be, way beyond his control or beyond his capacity to recognize it. Of course, it doesn't mean that, this is something we cannot work on. And it's interesting also that the moon is in conjunction with the south node. As we know, the south node represents the past, previous experiences from previous lives, areas of our life that we have been already, focused on. And having the south node in Scorpio suggests that in some way, this woman might be constantly expecting something traumatic to happen. She may have fears. She may feel unstable, insecure. She may also be afraid of losses, very typical for the Scorpio sign. On the other hand, what she needs to work on, and yeah, by the way, one more thing about the house position. The south node is in 11th house. I know that very often we talk how, 11th house is the house of groups and social activities and friends, but there is also another meaning, and also the ideals, but there is also another meaning, which is about, well, isolating ourselves a little bit. Not the same way like the 12th house isolation, but also here we have something like an emotional detachment. Whenever things get, dangerous, or we feel threatened, or we don't want to take risk, well, those people with the south node in 11th house, they try to avoid, this emotional attachment to things, and they try to avoid risk sometimes. And what Marie needs to work on, of course, is her north node, which is in Taurus, in 5th house, in conjunction with the sun. So all of those indications are important. First of all, Taurus as a sign represents stability, material security, being more grounded, being in touch with reality, being more practical. And 5th house is about our true self, our own desires. It's about emotions, it's about creativity, it's about love, it's about children. So very often people with the north node in 5th house, they need to learn to love others, to open up emotionally, to connect emotionally, because the typical scenario in this case with south node in 11th house, north node in 5th house, is that, sometimes the person may feel, well, afraid that he might get hurt by someone else. For example, he gets connected with someone, and the first signs, that he might get hurt or too involved with this person, he gets detached, especially on an emotional level. And this brings, blockages for the person to connect to another person. Also, 5th house is not only love, of course, it's about our core beliefs, our true self, our own desires. And also together with the sun, the north node is in conjunction with the sun. So literally, Marie needs to find herself. One of the main tasks for her is to recognize what she truly wants, to learn to follow her heart. Both of the things, so north node in 5th house and also north node in conjunction with the sun, they both represent this, that she needs to connect to her own desires and to follow her heart. And of course, creativity is something great for her. Having children may also help her to open up emotionally. Sometimes women with north node in 5th house, they become mothers later. Not always, but sometimes it happens. And it helps them actually to work with this north node. So a very specific position. Another thing which I want you to pay attention is that the moon is in Scorpio, so also, as we know, it brings fears, it brings tension, it's difficult for the person to relax. But of course, it makes him extremely emotional, extremely sensitive, incredible intuition. And what's the most specific about this moon is that it's in the middle of the place between Pluto and Saturn. Basically, that's the midpoint. First of all, when the moon stays between Pluto and Saturn, which are considered to be malefic planets, this is something like a trap for the moon. So it's not a nice position. But also, the moon is right in the middle, the midpoint between Pluto and Saturn. This also can bring possible emotional challenges, intense fears for this woman. And by the way, also it would be interesting to know what has happened around, well, between 10 and 12 years, when she was 10 and 12 years old, on average 11 years old. Because using the method of solar arc directions, we have had conjunction between Pluto and the moon and also Saturn and the moon. So there might have been a serious challenge, probably with family or something like that, or serious change. So yeah, just to show you something interesting. Okay, next we need to analyze the aspect configurations of this chart, just to make sure. Okay, looks like everything is visible here. I'm so glad that you find those analyses interesting and helpful. And as I told you, feel free to write in the comments your opinion or something which you find interesting, or it's something like teamwork. So the next thing is related to the aspect configurations of this chart. Also, we have something very interesting. I would say the most interesting is the position of Jupiter in this chart. Of course, after the solar eclipse, the lunar eclipse. But Jupiter is, well, in the most specific position in this chart. The reason is because it's part of two aspect configurations at the same time. It's in the focus point, and those aspect configurations are, one of them is challenging, the other is very positive. The challenging aspect configuration is a tau square, which also includes the sun and the moon. So as you can see, we have this opposition between the sun and the moon, and both of the planets are making squares with Jupiter. So this is called a focus point or an apex, the apex of the tau square, the most important planet where all of the tension goes. But also, by the way, this is the area where the biggest strength is. So very often people have some talents related to this planet, the planet in the aspect of the configuration. And the other configuration is called a bisextile. So we have Mercury making trine with Uranus, and both of them make sextiles with Jupiter. So again, Jupiter is in the apex or the focus point of the configuration, but this time this is a harmonious one. Just let me check what's the orbis of this aspect. So yeah, also very exact aspect between Mercury and Uranus. Less than 1 degree, 36 minutes. And between the sun and the moon, we have 31 minutes. So also very significant aspect in her chart. Mercury trine with Uranus. This is, by the way, the best possible case to have a planet which has both challenging and positive aspects. And especially in this case, when they are closed configurations, like the bisextile and the tau square. Because from one side, the tau square brings some kind of provocations, brings possible challenges, possible difficulties, but also strength. The town square brings incredible strength. Usually these are people who can fight, who are capable of doing things. For business, this is a great configuration, the town square. On the other hand, the bisextile is a soft configuration, so it brings talents, it brings some kind of skills. They are great for art, for creative activities, when you don't necessarily need this strength, like for example in politics or in business, where you need to be really hard or even harsh sometimes. So Jupiter in this horoscope has both of those configurations. So this is incredibly important planet in her chart. And one more thing, Jupiter is approximately in the middle of the aspect of the whole chart. I mean, from where the planets are placed. So the middle is from 4 degrees in Scorpio, 15 degrees. So literally here, somewhere around the first half of Aquarius is the middle of the chart. And Jupiter is very close there. This is also an area where you can have some talents, where you have a very strong potential for development. Plus, Jupiter is the planet of growth, the planet of prosperity and success, which doesn't mean that it will come easy for this woman. Having the town square suggests that she needs to work hard, she needs to put effort, she needs to overcome difficulties. But the closed configurations allow the energy to to manifest things, to materialize things easily. So this is also very important to find out whether you have challenging. It doesn't matter, actually. It's better to have closed aspect configurations which are challenging, instead of having only positive aspects which are not part of a closed configuration. Okay, so we find out Jupiter is very important. In terms of career, as we know, this woman is working on administrative work with translation, and she works in the embassy. So in some way, her work is related to Mercury and Jupiter. That's quite a Mercury type of work. Translation, also Mercury is in third house, so she can be very good in working with information, and sometimes even with negotiations. So that's an interesting position. Jupiter represents, of course, all kinds of foreign things. We can also assume that she's very good with languages. This combination can help us. And why this is important about her career? Because Mercury rules her sixth house. So that's why she's capable of working in this area. But as we know, this woman is not fully satisfied with her career. So she wants to find another career direction. In my opinion, this woman, Marie, has a great talent for astrology. Astrology, as we know, is about Uranus, and she has a very close, very exact trine with Mercury. On top of that, it's part of the close configuration with Jupiter. Jupiter is in second house, which also means that she may even earn money from this. So if I have to be honest, I would definitely recommend this woman to learn astrology for herself. She definitely has a potential for that. And first of all, it will open up her mind. It will, help her to solve so many issues, like it usually happens with astrology. But also, I truly think that she can turn this into career. So this is one of the main things I would suggest to this woman. Of course, also anything related to communication with foreigners, working abroad. Also working in the area of education can be a great way for her to be successful. And we can see that Pluto is very high here Pluto is in 10th house. When it comes to, occult things, and astrology is an occult knowledge, Pluto is very helpful as well. And by the way, we can see that her sun has an opposition with Pluto and Saturn. So the oppositions are not very exact. The orbis is quite large, more than 10 degrees. But for the oppositions of the sun, I work with 12-degree orbis. And it's interesting because usually those aspects, they can bring problems with authority figures and working in collectives of people. So this woman will be more satisfied, in my opinion, if she works on her own. Especially this opposition between the Sun and Pluto usually makes it difficult for this person to work in a collective of people. There might be confrontations, there might be some power struggles. The person may feel, like somebody is suppressing him, using their power to hurt them. So it might be really uncomfortable. And also the opposition with Saturn can bring self-doubts, can bring fears, also challenges with authority figures, and usually success comes later in life. So yeah, I think that this woman will be happier if she works on her own, something independent. Another indication for the same thing is that Mars is in conjunction with the cusp of her sixth house. Usually it also suggests, of course not in every case, but in many cases those people feel very well if they are capable of working on their own. Sometimes they want to have their own business, sometimes they just want to be a single player. The challenge here, so why is she not having her own business with this Pluto here, which is very powerful in 10th house, with Mars in her 6th house? In my opinion, the main reason is because the Sun is weak. The Sun is weak because it's in conjunction with the North Node, which means that she has to develop those qualities. So she doesn't really know exactly what she wants. It will take time before she finds out. And she needs to work on her confidence. But usually it happens with the North Node there, we get the right situations and lessons that will help us to develop those qualities. So I think that a little bit later in her life, this woman will be capable of having some kind of freedom or independent work, or maybe even her own business. And of course, she has a great capacity for working as a consultant. Mars here makes sextile with Venus, which is in 3rd house, so she's capable of connecting with, understanding others. Neptune in 1st house, somebody also mentioned, someone of you mentioned that, those people are more sensitive, that sometimes they can get confused, which is true, but these people also have a great intuition, which might be unlocked later in her life because Neptune is intercepted. If you can see here, Capricorn is locked in her 1st house. But I think that this woman has a great potential. Generally, we can say in science, in something untraditional, in something modern, something also, for example, if she's not interested in astrology, which I highly doubt, but if she is not, it could be also something about trading, especially online trading, or something with technologies, with some kind of gadgets and modern stuff. These are all areas which are great for her. And when it comes to her personal life, she mentions that she's not fully satisfied with her personal life. First of all, one of the problems is this North Node in 5th house. So Marie really needs to learn to connect emotionally, to open up emotionally to other people. And another thing which is interesting, the speed of her Venus. The speed of her Venus is only 12 minutes for the day. The average speed of Venus is more than 1 degree a day. Very often 1 degree and 20 minutes. So when Venus has a very low speed in the chart, it means that there are two options. Either in the progressions, soon Venus will turn retrograde, I mean soon after the person were born, or the other option is that right before this person was born, Venus has been retrograde. And in Marie's case, we have the second option. So I will show you actually, let me move the chart. So she's born on the 4th of May. I'm moving the chart. So on the 24th of April, so 10 days before that, Venus has been retrograde. So look how interesting is that. By the way, this is another indication that around the age of 10 years, 10, 11 years old, something important has happened in her life. Because, it shows the retrogradations, another topic, very interesting. So let's return back the chart. So we know that the speed of her Venus is low, which means that, it may take more time for her also to fall in love, to reveal her emotions, to connect emotionally, and even having a serious relationship or a stable relationship may take a little bit longer for her. And the challenge of this Venus is the square with Neptune. This can bring some kind of unrealistic expectations, which lead usually to disappointments. Sometimes this may bring also unfair partners, unavailable partners, or partners who need support or want her to take care of them. Or love triangles also are possible. So usually this is an indication for possible disappointment at some point. But other than that, her seventh house. So let's see what's happening with her seventh house. Mercury is the ruler. Mercury has only positive, the ruler of seventh house, I mean. Mercury has only positive aspects with Uranus and with Jupiter. So let's check, that's correct, which is a very good indication for the opportunity to have a nice relationship. The important part here is that also we have Cancer intercepted in seventh house, which the interceptions usually bring possible challenges in this life area. And very often there is something like a double motivation of the person. The first motivation, or what the person recognizes his needs, is more related to the sign which is on the cusp of the house. So in this case, Gemini on the cusp probably suggests that, she really needs an intelligent partner, someone with who, she can be friends, she can connect intellectually. So, someone who is on a high intellectual level. So, she's more mentally oriented according to this. But after that, we find Cancer here. And Cancer is really different. Cancer is about emotions, about caring, about, relying on each other. So she may not be completely aware or in touch with all of her needs. And that's why we call it something like a double motivation. So at first, she wants someone, who is very intelligent, who is highly educated, probably, who is an interesting partner, who can teach her on some things because of those, beautiful aspects with Jupiter and Uranus, probably, untraditional type of person. But after that, she will realize that she also needs this warm emotional connection, the Cancer type of connection. Okay, so yeah, these are some important things about her love life, but generally we can say that there is a potential for, for having a relationship. Of course, she has her own challenges, but we cannot say that it's impossible. And one more thing about her career. Also, I would like to pay attention here. She has a karmic aspect between Jupiter and Saturn. This karmic aspect is a bin on a gone, one of the more untraditional aspects. Not everyone works with those aspects. This is basically an 80-degree aspect. The karmic aspects like this one are very specific because they have very sudden influence. They don't affect your life during your whole life. At certain point they are being activated and they bring sudden unexpected changes. Sometimes they could be stressful, but the most important is that these are intense changes. And Jupiter and Saturn are also the two social planets. So from this combination we can suggest that probably during her life there will be a sudden drastic change in her career direction. It's highly possible to happen. Okay, so let me check back with you guys. Yeah, that's so karmic. Okay. Yes, we have a question here. Oh, where was the question? Okay, I lost it. Oh, here it is. Do you take into consideration ruler of seventh house in 10th house? Yes, of course. You can always take into consideration the position of the rulers of certain houses. In this case, you mean because the moon is the second ruler? Yes. You also work with the intercepted rulers of the houses. So let's say in Marie's case, she has two rulers of seventh house, Mercury and the moon. So both of them are important. Okay, so yeah, it took us quite a long time to interpret some of the important things in this chart. Of course, we cannot cover absolutely everything. I'm trying to, navigate this and show you some interesting specific stuff, how to approach this and what to pay attention to. And some interesting stuff, for example, like with her Venus, which is, has a very low speed, which sometimes you may not recognize. So anyway, let's move to our, okay, yeah, one more thing before we move to the prediction. Looking at this chart, which are some important areas in her, not areas, important years during her life in the near future. So as we said, this woman is currently 33 years old. 33 is a very specific age, not only in religion, but generally this is the age of the sun. It's considered that when we are at the age of 33, this is very important and related also to the position of our sun in the chart. So this is a period when we can unlock something related to the sun, which means, our personality, our strength, our confidence, our desires, our goals. So really important stuff. And in Marie's chart, this is actually more important than for the average person because her sun is in conjunction with the North Node. So she has a mission here. She has a life task here. So this age, 33, is very important for her. And the next age, which is also actually very soon and very important, is the age of 36, 37 years. First of all, this is the age when we have the second return of the nodes to their natal position, which usually also unlocks things, which helps us to see some things, to make significant life changes in some way related, to our life task and so on. So we can assume that, around the age of 36, she will really connect to herself better. She will feel more confident, or she will realize more what she truly wants. So I guess this will be very, very intense period. And also in her chart, she has an aspect between her Venus and the sun. This is a creative aspect which is called semi-quintile, which is a 36-degree aspect. Again, one of the more specific aspects which brings changes. I won't go into details about the nature of the aspect, but using the method of solar arc directions, it means that around the age of 36, she will have conjunction between Venus and the Sun. Of course, the orbis for the Sun is very large. We have 2-degree orbis. So basically, it's plus minus 2 years. But generally, around this age, we can guess that something important will happen related to her emotional life, to her personal life, and generally related, to learning to enjoy life. This is also one of the lessons for this woman, for Marie. Fifth house is about entertainment, about enjoying life, about feeling excited about life, and this is also one of the lessons for her. So my guess is that from this age, from 33 until 36, 37 years, possibly up to 38 years, she will make a very significant change in her life. And she can, unblock some of her emotional stuff. Of course, she needs to work on the past. This is, I know it's a huge topic. It takes us so much time to, discuss that. I hope it's not overwhelming for you, but, there are many things we need to analyze. So anyway, what we need to remember is that 33 up to 36, 38 years will be a very important period in her life. We are going to move now to our prediction. Okay, so let's see how to start the prediction. Generally, what's the approach? Well, you can use different methods, of course. In most of the cases, we start with the transits because the transits are really visible. They are usually affecting us on a very material level. So it's a little bit easier to interpret them. And what you should find out first is whether you have some aspects between the outer planets and any of your personal planets. So basically, in Marie's case, we have one of those really interesting aspects. We have currently Pluto squaring her Mercury. So this is a challenging aspect because it can bring tension, on a mental, intellectual level. It can bring, some kind of worries. Sometimes, people can experience anxiety or fears. And also in her horoscope, Mercury rules 6th house. So she may feel really uncomfortable at work. She may feel, like somebody is suppressing her, like she is being controlled by someone. There might be manipulations, really, significant challenges. And this aspect, let me see, of course, this is a long aspect, so it's not the beginning. Actually, it's around the end of this transit. And what's great is that next month, so during November 2018, the aspect is off. You can see here we have no square. Let's check if this will repeat again. Okay, so great news for Marie. This is the last month that Pluto will square her Mercury. And Pluto has squared her Mercury for 2 or 3 years. So it's, quite understandable. So that's great. It means that 1 month from now, things might start to improve. Of course, it doesn't mean that, all of her problems at work will disappear, but there will be, her mind might be much more relaxed. And of course, you will feel that also in work or in different areas. Let's see, what else do we have? Neptune. Neptune makes sextile with her sun and trine with her moon. So basically, right now, Neptune is activating her natal opposition between the sun and the moon, but in a positive way because it makes harmonious aspects. So this is a great time for her to connect emotionally better to herself, to also to increase her intuition, to connect with this intuition. For spiritual work, this is a great aspect as well. For creative work, this is a great aspect as well. Marie mentioned that she likes to, do volunteer job, or, to, as far as I understand, to support others. This is also very helpful. Okay, let's see. Of course, we cannot, talk about each of those aspects. I'm trying to point, the most important in my opinion. We can see Saturn currently is in conjunction with her Neptune. So this is an aspect which requires from her to be more in touch with reality, to become more grounded, in some way to set free from some kind of illusions. And basically, Saturn is activating her natal square between Neptune and Venus. Let's see when exactly Saturn will square Venus. So it happens around November, December 2018. The transit Saturn squares her Venus. So from one side, this might be an emotionally challenging period. But on the other hand, she can also cut off old things from her life emotionally, to let go all things. And we know that Venus rules her 10th house. So in some way, Venus is also connected to her work. So it's really possible that she may decide to quit her job around this period. November, December 2018. It's really possible. Let's see after that, what do we have? After that, we have the transit Jupiter. Jupiter enters Sagittarius during November 2018, which means that it will make trine with her Venus. So a little bit after the square of Saturn. Let's find out when. Okay, so pay attention here. On the 9th of December 2018, we have both Saturn squaring Venus and also Jupiter making trine with Venus. So what an interesting combination. And let's see, on the very next day, on the 10th of December, Saturn is gone and we only have Jupiter trining Venus. So when we have this type of combination, we can assume that it's possible for her to quit her job or to stop doing something and to start doing something new. So there might be a new opportunity which will be related to a change. Also, what's interesting is that at the same time, Jupiter is on the cusp of 12th house, which is one of the houses related to, long distance places, or sometimes immigration, or, traveling. Venus is also in 3rd house, one of the houses related to traveling. So it's really possible that she may have an opportunity to travel somewhere. It could be for business, it could be even for possible relocation. Or at least she may take a decision to make that step. But definitely there should be some kind of new opportunity related to her work. Those two aspects, the square that Saturn will make, let's find out actually if this will repeat. No, actually it won't repeat, but after that they will make, so Saturn and Jupiter will make aspect also with her Mercury. Again, Jupiter will make trine and Saturn will make square, and this will be on and off during 2019. So again, we can guess that there might be some changes. Probably things won't be, so simple. When Saturn squares the ruler of your 6th house, there might be some restrictions or more responsibilities, or, quitting certain position, starting a new position. but at the same time, Jupiter trining Mercury can bring, incredible new opportunities. So basically, Jupiter will activate the Natal bisextile that we discussed at the beginning, the positive aspect configuration between her Jupiter, Uranus, and Mercury. So also this would be a great time for her to start learning something, especially if she wants to learn astrology or something more untraditional. So really interesting time. Let's see, what else do we have? So Jupiter and Saturn are on and off with Mercury, which is interesting, and we already discussed that. And basically, Jupiter will enter her first house around the end of 2019, around the middle of November 2019. Also interesting, new beginning, when she may start new things, when she may feel more confident, more willing to take risks as well. So very interesting combination. In my opinion, during 2019, there will be an opportunity for Marie to make a significant shift in her career direction, related to work in general. Let's see. Okay. You are all here. Thank you, guys. Somebody asked whether the fact that she has no planets in this quadrant of the horoscope, seventh, eighth, and ninth house, means that nothing will happen between 20 something and 40 something. No, it's definitely not what it means. I'm not using this type of interpretation. As you can see, a lot of things will happen. So let's look also at her progressions. Let's find out. This is the progressed chart for the current moment. Actually, let me... Okay, this is the end of September. Let's make it 3rd of October. Not that it's a significant difference, but anyway, this is the progressed chart for the current moment. One interesting thing is that her progressed ascendant is about to change the signs, about to make an ingression, which will happen very soon, literally during November. Okay, the very end of November, the beginning of December 2018. The ingression of those houses, and of course it means that the 7th house cusp is also making the ingression. These are indications which bring serious personal changes, both possible in the area of relationships because it's 7th house, but also all kinds of things related to this person. And this is a significant change, of course, from Capricorn to Aquarius. We can make the suggestion that Marie will have much more freedom in her life. Aquarius is a sign, which brings variety, which brings excitement, which brings, lots of changes. So my suggestion, my guess is that there will be lots of changes, personal changes in her life, and how she acts, how she do things, what she initiates. So this is a great thing. The other thing which is important, the progressed moon is about to make conjunction with Jupiter. As we know, Jupiter is one of the key planets in her chart. The exact conjunction will happen during around the beginning of 2019. January, February, March. So first we have conjunction with the natal Jupiter, then with the progressed Jupiter. So they are kind of, one after another. This might be a very interesting period also for changes, and also it can indicate possibility for traveling. Because we have also connection between 12th house, 3rd house, Jupiter itself could be related to that. So Marie can take some important decisions around the beginning of 2019. And by the way, now I see that her natal Jupiter is direct, but her progressed Jupiter is retrograde. So it's interesting to find out when this change has happened. Okay, look at this, guys. Look how interesting is that. Honestly, I just noticed that. Uh, this is the progress chart for 2016. Look at her Jupiter. Jupiter is direct, so there is no R here. And let's find out. So during the summer of 2016, May, if we have to be absolutely accurate, during May 2016, the progressed Jupiter in Marie's chart has turned retrograde. These are also major changes that happen. Very often, when Jupiter turns retrograde or changes its direction in your progressed chart, a couple of years before and after that, people may feel lost. And when I say lost, I mean they may not know exactly what their goals are. They may realize that, they are no longer motivated by the things that have been motivating them in the past. So these are significant changes about related to the worldview of this person, related to his life goals, what's interesting to him. And it takes time. So it doesn't mean that, right after this month the change is already there. This is a process, and more importantly, this is an inner process, so it takes time. But very often, if a planet in your progression changes the direction in both ways, from retrograde to direct or from direct to retrograde, this is an important period of your life. And it could be challenging before you get used to those changes, before you realize what's happening inside of you. Also, very often, specifically when we talk about Jupiter turning retrograde in the progressions, those people can become more motivated or interested in, things which are not so visible on a material level. So they might be more interested in, personal growth, learning things, understanding things, philosophy, this more spiritual side of Jupiter, instead of, outer success, material achievements. It doesn't mean that this is impossible to happen, but their motivation, is shifting. So now we understand even better why Marie shares, that she has struggled with her career and with her motivation, and, she feels kind of lost. It's completely normal. And the more time passes, usually, it's 1, 2, 3 years after that, until, Jupiter gets to the normal speed. Let's find out actually what's the current speed of Jupiter in the progressions. Because generally, the planet is still stationary after that certain, for certain period. And yeah, Jupiter is still very slow. Yeah, so this is a long period of changing her goals. But keep in mind that Jupiter retrograde in the progressions can be even better for learning or for something which is more philosophical. So significant changes in her career, in her overall motivation, and generally her direction in life. So I think that we have answered some of the important questions for her. When it comes to her personal life, as we said, looking at her chart, I think that this age around 36 years will be very, very important. Plus minus 2 years, of course, because of the conjunction between Venus and the Sun, because we have the nodes activated during this age as well. And look at that. Also, her progressed Mercury will make trine with her Jupiter. And we know that in the natal chart, Mercury rules 7th house. So it's important for the area of relationships. So generally, that's great. And when the progressed moon makes conjunction with Jupiter, it will also make trine with the Sun and with the progressed Mercury, which are in exact conjunction with the cusp of her 5th house. So this may also be a very intense period, the beginning of 2019, both for her career, both she can take decisions for traveling or for, moving somewhere. And in terms of her personal life, this may also be an intense period. I mean, it can bring love into her life. So there are other things also. We can see that the cusp of 3rd house and the cusp of 9th house are about to make ingressions, which happens during January 2019. This also may indicate either traveling and sometimes relocation, or she may start to learn something as well. And after that, we have an opposition between Venus and Pluto. This may also represent traveling. So interesting chart, really interesting chart. Look how many things we find out. Okay, so let me change now. Let me turn my camera on and I will see. Okay. Did you find interesting this chart? So what's your opinion? Okay. All right. Just to turn the camera. What do you think about this, guys? Okay, I'm back here. Did you find it interesting? Yes, the progressed charts are extremely interesting. If I have to be honest, I think this is my favorite method for prediction. Because as I told you, the transits, they are usually related to some visible stuff, things that, Saturn squares your Venus, well, emotionally, you might be disappointed, and so on. Things are much clearer with them. But with the progressions, they are more related to inner processes, especially people who are, having an intense inner world or intense inner experiences, rich inner world. Progressions are very important for them. So I always, check the progressions, and I highly recommend you to do that. There are many things that we need to cover about the progressions, aspects, ingressions, but I hope that with our sessions, I will be able to show you more of them. Some guidance, you're asking me about some guidance for the progressions. First of all, pay attention for ingressions of planets. Ingressions means planets which are changing signs. Let's say progressed moon changes the sign very often, between 2 years and 2 years and a half, depending on the speed. Mercury can change it a couple of times during your life. Venus, not so often. Mars, very rarely. And if you have those ingressions, these are very important years. Changes in the direction of the planets, from retrograde to direct, and from direct to retrograde. If you are born with direct Mercury and you live a normal life, I mean, let's say 70, 80 years, at some point you will have Mercury retrograde in the progressions. Or if you are born with progressed Mercury, with natal Mercury, which is retrograde, during the first 20 years of your life, Mercury will turn direct. So these are also important things to pay attention. Also with Venus. Venus is retrograde for approximately 40 days. So if you are born with a retrograde Venus, until the 40th birthday, your Venus will turn direct. So also very intense periods. And don't forget ingressions of the cusps of the houses. But for that, you need to have a very accurate time of birth, a rectified time of birth, or from the birth certificate. But the rectification is the best, of course. Okay, so what about Mars retrograde in progressions? Of course, it's also important. But Mars is retrograde for approximately, well, more than 2 months. So it's possible that you might be born with Mars retrograde in the natal chart, and it may stay retrograde during your whole life. Or it's possible to turn, of course, to change the direction when you were younger. It depends. Okay, so I hope this was interesting to you. If you like those sessions, as I promised, I will keep doing them. I will try to do them regularly once a week. I will keep you posted. So if you want to learn more about those events, subscribe to my channel. You can find also our group in Facebook. I post, the announcements there as well. So you're welcome to join us. And if you want to be a volunteer for our next sessions, you're welcome to send me your birth details. You need to have an accurate time of birth, and also two main areas that you're interested in, and a short description of your life situation, so that we can be more helpful. If you are interested, if you want a personal reading, of course, you are welcome to contact me. You can find the link in the description below this video. You can go to my website as well, marstars.net. You will find more astrology there. I'm trying to, update the information. I'm trying to create new content for you. You can send the details to my email, marina@marstars.net. I will write it here. I was thinking to make another email specifically for those events, but I will let you know when I have the new email. For now, you can send it to this one, marina@marstars.net. Please write in the subject that it's about, the volunteer for YouTube. So thank you very much, guys, for joining me. And also, of course, remember, don't forget about our Jupiter in Sagittarius webinar. I'm really excited about this transit, because Jupiter will enter the sign of its rulership. So it will be, even more beneficial than usual. It will reward us with more stuff. So I think that we can all benefit, of course, everyone in different area, depending on the house which will be transited by Jupiter. So if you want to join our webinar, again, the link is below the video. Okay, so thank you so much. Thank you so much, guys. And hopefully we will see very soon. Have a nice day, everyone.